Oh, but do we know the law? Does the law know the law? No, that's the question this morning.
I got to tell you, first of all, good morning,
Franz.
Good morning,
How are you?
Brian. Good morning, Alondra. Good morning, listeners and viewers. I got to tell you, seldomly, I mean, when you've been doing this as long as I've been doing this, both being a lawyer, doing the commentary work, I don't really get excited about topics.
Yeah.
You had me actually sitting back and thinking about this one.
Because it's such a good question.
Right.
Headline from The Advocate. I don't even know if we're going to get into the discussion in this first segment because I want to set this up with everything that Matt Bruce over at The Advocate typed out here. Mm-hmm. The headline reads, do online reporters require special credentials? Unfiltered with Kieran says no. East Baton Rouge City and Parish officials have, well, bear in mind, this is Matt Bruce's writing, so it's going to have his slant within it, okay? And it really sets the table for where he's at. So East Baton Rouge City and Parish officials have trampled on an online reporter's First Amendment rights, according to a lawsuit that could have ramifications on how much access governments across the state give non-traditional news media outlets. That last phrase is important. Non-traditional news media outlets. Unfiltered with Kieran, a digital news site, has had a tense relationship with the city's police leaders since its outset. Emmy award-winning television journalist Karen Chawla lists herself and her news site as plaintiffs in the civil rights suit, which was filed Friday in U.S. District Court for Louisiana's Middle District. She argues in the filing that Police Chief Murphy Paul has ordered the police department to block her access to public records. The suit says city leaders insist she must get credentialed through the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters before her media access is granted. BRPD has yet to comment on the lawsuit other than noting the litigation is pending. Chawla said in an interview Friday her lawsuit is about keeping the lines of communication open so she receives the information she needs to do her job effectively. Now, for those that don't know Kieran, she used to work right across the street at WAFB. Hell of an investigative reporter. Parted ways with WAFB. She does her own thing now, and she does it well.
She's won an Emmy.
She does. Yes, she's won an Emmy. Absolutely.
Okay.
But is that what's the question here?
Well, we're gonna have a conversation about legitimacy at some point. So yeah. But keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No. Because what you're going to do is open Pandora's box here.
Yeah.
Because you have to separate Kieran from non-traditional news media outlet. You can't look at this story through the lens of we're talking about Karen Chawla. We're talking about this through the lens of every blogger, every YouTube content creator, every person with a TikTok, a Snapchat, an Instagram, a Facebook, any slap with an iPhone, anybody who has written anything down on Twitter is now a reporter by the definition of non-traditional news media outlet. That the only separation there is how good they are at it.
So who gets to make the decision?
That's the question.
BRPD?
No.
The Louisiana Association of Broadcasting, which
that's an association, not a legal body.
Right.
Like
who gets to make it?
We're members of LAB here.
We would agree that the government doesn't get to make the decision on who the press is or isn't, right? Or do they? I mean, BRPD is a government. It is an entity that is considered.
No. I feel like this is something that should be legislated, should it not? That's who writes the laws.
It would make it easier, right? It would make it easier if the legislature said, look, we recognize that non-traditional is now almost becoming traditional. And non-traditional may be.
It's consumed more than traditional.
Yeah,
now.
streaming.
Right.
Streaming sites. I'm not saying that more people watch her than WAFB, but there's an argument for her online content is palpable.
We can break those numbers down. That's the beauty part about the non-traditional. We can get the numbers to see. But is the rate of consumption what defines this? Well, there's so many different other things. And the other hard part about this is it's darn near impossible from a traditional media standpoint to not sound elitist about it.
Well, let's say hypothetical, she was affiliated with Guarantee Broadcasting and she had her own broadcasting show. Mm-hmm. Whatever that looks like once a week, whatever, she did that. Would you feel like she is more quote unquote press at that point? Or what makes someone the press?
Right. So that's what we're going to break down. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, this is not going to stop during the break. If you know the segment with Franz at all, it ramps up and leaves the rails when we're hitting news, traffic, and weather on the air. So dial us up on Facebook Live. It's Talk 107.3's Facebook page, and share it with your friends if you like. He's attorney Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served every Wednesday at this time. Franz, we're going to hit a quick promo and then go into news. But I'm going to toss this question out, and you cannot address it until we get back. Are you a member of the press? We'll dive in on that when we get back. Hey, hockey's coming back to the Rivers Center tomorrow night. Game 1 of 3 games on the slate. The Mississippi Sea Wolves going to be taking on Port Huron tomorrow night in the Raising Cane's Rivers Center. We're giving away tickets throughout the morning, or you can visit talk1073.com to get your tickets there. But hockey is back, and so is CBS News right here.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yep.
I knew that was coming. Of course
you did.
I knew that was coming.
No, you put that on a tee. You wanted me to ask you that question. If someone has a weekly show on Talk 107.3, if someone contributes commentary to Court TV, if someone is called upon by the media to speak about cases that are going to be talked about in these press conferences, would it be in your best interest to have the background of attending the press conference?
Is there a distinction between media and press? Because if you think about it, let's say she's reporting on a court case. Mm-hmm. She can go in a courtroom just like you and I can. There's no credentials necessary for that.
I'm curious to know what public records she's been denied, or if they're dragging their feet.
Well, that's an easy, but that is an easy one. The public records request.
Everybody has access.
Yeah, you and I, everybody.
Yes.
You know, Alondra gets public records requests.
According to Charles' complaint, the state constitution defines a reporter as a news gatherer, regularly engaged in the business of collecting, writing, or editing news for a media outlet.
That's her.
I know, but media outlet is everybody.
So not relevant to the legal decision, but like, what do you need to do to become an LAB, a Louisiana Association Broadcasting member? Like, could I become a Louisiana Association Broadcasting member or associate or whatever you call it?
Hang on.
And Byron wrote something very, 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 very much on point. Her not getting access to the press conference makes her more interesting. She just needs help to capitalize on it. She's going to have a national case. This is going to be a national case.
It is going to be a national case that has to be broken down by state, by the way.
Yeah.
So I pulled this up last night. The Louisiana Association of Broadcasters provides support to the Louisiana broadcast industry by offering, and by the way, that word broadcast is important too, because it has nothing to do with print. It is strictly radio and TV.
Would you say that
they offer a podcast option too?
So would you say that someone who podcasts by internet streaming is a broadcaster?
Not.
Okay.
Internet streaming is not broadcasting. Broadcasting is out over the airwaves and has an FCC license.
Okay.
That's why we can't say potty words on this show. That's what they call them. Like,
I know. I got you. We got little kids. The kids call them potty words.
These services include events such as the annual convention, student workshop, career fair, and annual prestige awards, which you'll see 4 of them right there.
You got an Emmy,
huh?
You got an Emmy? Can you get it? Can you get an Emmy?
No, there's a radio.
Equivalent.
Yeah, but I've never submitted for it. I was supposed to, and then COVID hit.
Do you know that my commentary on Court TV, theoretically, I could be eligible.
You could be eligible for an Emmy. Yes.
I would be out of control.
But no, but this goes back to the same question, though, Franz. Are you a member of the press? Because you can have an Emmy.
Is like Court TV, you go on there as an expert.
Yes.
Legal they're very particular about so legal analyst or legal commentator. Now, ethically, my license, I got to be careful when I start referring to myself as an expert, because we, as a state license, we have a defined, this is how you become an expert in family law. This is how it becomes. So I can be, generally, I'm a commentator or analyst.
So, like, either way, you're a commentator.
I would not, yeah. I'm commentating on stuff that happens. I'm not reporting on stuff that happens. And I think that's the distinction why I would probably call myself media, not press.
Right. Now, here's another part of this, okay? If Karen Chawla is given acceptance or admittance to these press conferences, not only do you have to open up to the entire blogosphere of Baton Rouge, but the entire blogosphere of the world.
Sure.
Every slap that wants to get in there can get in there.
Yeah.
At which point you're not going to have a press conference anymore, or you're not going to have a police chief anymore, because he's going to have to sit there answering questions from each and every member of every.
The Constitution doesn't address inconvenience. It doesn't.
Right.
Freedom of, but convenient freedom of the press. No, it's freedom of the
The
press.
Constitution also doesn't require any transparency on the police's standpoint. So we can get rid of press conferences altogether because that level of inconvenience stands in the way of them doing their job.
So you just made as a citizen, you just made a very good point. BRPD is under no obligation to do a press conference. We enjoy the press conference because it gives us transparency.
Transparency, a level of comfort with information, yes. But at the same time, though, we have that level of spoiledness to think that we're entitled to it.
Well, I think I'm entitled to all sorts of things.
No shit.
Well, that's what I asked, like, yesterday. I was like, doesn't he have the right to say, oh, I don't want you in a press conference?
So therein lies the question, right? Is your microphone on?
It is.
Because it's nowhere near you. And you're asking good questions. You're asking good questions.
Here it is. It is easier in her case because of the nature of her relationship, and she has a weird relationship.
And
I use
to
the word
be fair,
weird.
She is antagonistic towards them as they are towards her.
I'm not pointing a finger at who started it.
Right.
I'm saying she has a poor relationship. Everybody would agree the relationship between her and the BRPD.
I don't think that's a secret.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think you can look at this through the lens of just this relationship, because the question's bigger than Karen. Karen's just a jumping off.
I will say this, and I want to say this both on streaming and I'll say it on radio.
Hang on. Oh, yeah. Time to get a look at your forecast. Here's WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
I want to say this. She has reported recently on cases that I'm involved with.
Uh-huh.
And in terms of the ethical parameters of what I would expect from the Advocate, WAFB, WBRZ, she is spot on. She reports with integrity. When I say off record, it's off record.
Absolutely.
When it's on record, it's on record. She allowed me.
Say that like that's hard to do.
Not everybody not non-press people, non-news press people don't necessarily always accommodate that.
Yeah.
I will say that's a big thing.
Yeah. .637 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt rolling right along as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane. All right, let's dive back in, Franz. I asked you a question heading into the break. We're going to pick up that question right now. Are you a member of the press?
So I would say that I'm a member of the media, whatever that means.
Aren't we all, though?
But I am not. I don't know that I would classify myself as press, and I'll say why.
What makes you a member of the media?
So I do legal commentary, right? So the Go Roost Show, if we ever do the Go Roost Show again,
right?
The Go Roost Show is not news. It's not press. But I am on all the news outlets. I'm on your show weekly. I do national TV as a legal commentator. I commentate on news. I don't report news. I interpret law.
Right.
Okay. So I would say I'm not reporting. I'm a, dare I use the word, talking head.
Yeah. No.
So that is why I would say I am not press.
We didn't have talking heads when the Constitution was written.
Correct. And
we had like a town crier.
From a legal standpoint, so we should talk law. This originally had to do with the media, the press was print back then, right? There was
primarily,
yeah, you're absolutely spot on. There was no broadcasting, although.
And there was Thaddeus on the corner shouting "Fall to here!"
The United States Supreme Court the United States Supreme Court has said it's not just print, it's broadcasting.
Yes.
And there is the rub.
Yeah.
What is broadcasting?
The broadcasting part of this is interesting because broadcasting, by my definition, would involve an FCC license.
Okay.
You're broadcasting. Streaming is not the same thing as broadcasting. These two things are different. Because you have to have an FCC license to be a television station, an over-the-air television station, or an over-the-air radio station.
So we did a legally unfiltered episode, Richard Sprinkle and I did, on this very topic of the distinction between radio and podcasting.
Yeah.
And the podcasting world is the Wild Wild West. She is, by the nature of what she does, she is unregulated. She's
Completely.
unfiltered because, in part, she's unregulated.
Yes.
Nobody can regulate her as it is now until the FCC or until some government agency says, we're going to regulate her.
Mm-hmm.
She can do things you can't do. She can use language that you can't use.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Absolutely.
Now-
we can't use potty words on the air.
Now, what I have observed as someone who views her material, her content, is she essentially does everything she would have done on a major news outlet, broadcasting.
Sure.
That box, she doesn't go outside that box.
Right.
She does things that are appropriate. And look, it would be easier if like CNN picked her up or if Discovery Crime picked her up. It'd be a little bit easier, right? Then
Would it though?
I don't know.
Would it though? Okay. So as a member of the media, if you felt that you were going to have to do commentary on this show, on WBRZ, on Court TV about a case that was going on in Baton Rouge, should you be granted access to a press conference?
So here's the question. Why is the public not granted access to a press conference? Is it convenience and space? Is it we don't have the space to do it?
Yeah.
Because then it's going to become very fact specific. Your issue is the floodgate issue, right? If you open up the floodgate, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to come in there and want to. But the truth of the matter is who goes to press conferences? Are they always? You go to press conferences occasionally.
Occasionally, I do. When the schedule permits, between being a morning show host and program director, the schedule doesn't always permit.
Right.
Okay. But when the schedule permits, I try to get to them. But let's stop with Baton Rouge Police Department and shift this to any different press conference, because what would apply to a BRPD press conference would also have to apply to Brian Kelly, would also have to apply to the governor.
I agree.
Okay, so while not a whole lot of people are going to show up for a BRPD press conference, can you imagine the Monday press conference with Brian Kelly if we just opened up the floodgates to say we're all members of the media now without any kind of credentials to get in the room to begin with?
So to me,
And by the way, you do have to be credentialed to get into those too.
okay. Well, that's and there is a safety. I think your concern about safety. You haven't used the word safety, but
Not yet. Yeah,
It's a
I was
valid
holding that
concern.
one for the last segment, Franz.
yes, but there's a valid concern about that. But I'll say this: the perverse irony of this entire conversation is based on the turbulent relationship that those two entities have.
Mm-hmm.
She is, whether she wins legally or not, she is going to benefit from this lawsuit and this entire.
She's benefiting from every time someone says the word Kieran.
Yes,
she's benefiting. This is good for her.
Yeah. And she is going to get national support and attention from unlikely places. Like, does the ACLU step in on this one? I don't know. Does PAR step in on this one? Maybe. I don't know. Now, where I think she wins is she absolutely has access to public records. You and
100%. Everybody agrees with that.
That is just.
Anybody who wants a public record can have an access to public records. Now, if she wants to get, sometimes when people submit public records requests, they're not satisfied with the amount of time it takes to deliver on those requests. That's a different story. That's being delayed, not denied.
Well, this is the same city of Baton Rouge, who, when the Baton Rouge Council makes requests from the parish attorney's office, they're like, we don't need to answer that.
I mean,
this is the BRPD.
Don't we have enough ant piles already kicked over?
I'm just saying, this is the BRPD who's like, we don't have to answer this press. Come on, what's going on in Baton Rouge right now? Okay, that's another conversation. My point is,
Don't we have enough ant piles already kicked over?
My prediction is she prevails, and she makes new case law for people that do what she does.
Okay, who gets to decide what are the credentials to get in the room? Because would it have to be the same between LSU, BRPD, East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff, or the governor?
So I think it's for sports. Again, it's a public institution, so it's technically the state of Louisiana. It's technically government. So
Right.
yeah, but this one's going to be easier because it is a government entity saying you can't come in. You're excluded. We're going to let all these other, and then the question becomes,
No. Don't just skip in the middle of that sentence. We're going to let all these other has to have a definition.
Well, who are the people in the press conference room? WBRZ, WAFB,
The Advocate.
The Advocate.
Maybe 33 might get in there.
Maybe 33 might get in there. If Guarantee Broadcasting has a reporting entity,
Us,
Louisiana Magazine or what's the radio?
Louisiana Radio Network.
Louisiana Radio. Their press, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
is there any? Have you ever been in one of those where you're like, what is that joker doing in here?
So, yes, I have. But if you open yourself up to Kieran, now's the part where we have to lose Kieran's name out of this. If you open yourself up to Kieran, you open yourself up to everyone with a YouTube
I would
channel.
like to open up myself.
Stop. You have to open yourself up to everyone who has a YouTube channel, everyone who has a blog. And when it comes down to that, you're no longer talking about Baton Rouge reporters or Baton Rouge press being in a Baton Rouge press conference. Because when you go to the LAB's website, okay, let's back up for 1 second. Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul has ordered the police department to block her access to public records. This is going back to the Advocate article. The suit says city leaders insist she must get credentialed through the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters. Now, the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters is not a legal entity. It's an advocacy group. They support the broadcasting industry. But if you go to the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters and you look up, how can I join? How can I get credentialed? Well, television membership application asks for your city of license for your FCC license. She doesn't have a city of license.
Right.
So if Kieran's in, so's the Joe Rogan show.
But
so's Theo Vaughn.
But here's the problem. The government is making the decision of what she needs to be quote unquote press.
Right.
It's not LAB. It's the government saying you need to be LAB member. And therein lies the problem. And by the way, would Joe Rogan say that he's press? No.
He has the exact same qualifications as Kieran, though.
Right. But I don't think he's ever, I mean.
Does that matter? Wait, we got to pause again. We got a break coming up.
Okay.
So let's push pause on this one more time. Got a break. Traffic, your money now. Coming your way right here on Talk 107.3 FM. He's attorney Franz Borghardt. We do this every Wednesday. We call it Legally Served, and we are back at it next on Talk 107.3.
I got to tell you, in a way, this one is better. It's smaller. Is this the size of your go-to?
Mine is actually a little bit smaller than that one.
Yeah, there you go. How about that? God bless you.
Thank you.
There has to be something. Well, you go ahead.
Oh, what?
You don't think it's an unreasonable request at what? Right.
Is there anybody besides the FCC? Is there any other state entity? And by state entity, I don't mean a government entity, an agency or association. And by the way, the whole point behind an association is to lobby on your behalf.
Yes, that's what
it's to
LAB does.
regulate you to a certain degree, but it's also to lobby on your behalf. And then I want to know, what is LAB saying about all this? Are they saying we don't think she's pressed because she's not one of us?
LAB hasn't sounded off on this.
They're going to keep their mouth shut.
Nor should they.
Should we have
they're an advocacy group. They're not a legal entity.
Should we have a special classification for what she is and what she does? I think so. I think
so do I.
That is where we're going, though, right?
So do I.
God, me with an Emmy. Woo. Woo. Good morning, Daniel, Keith, Troy, Wayne, Eric, Byron. Good morning, Alondra.
Good morning.
Jill Kraft is her attorney. Ooh, Jill Kraft. That connection makes sense, though. Jill Kraft's husband is it Jim Shannon, former WAFB, and that makes. I mean, I'm sure they knew each other from out.
Yeah, WAFB.
He was at WAFB, but by the way, Jill Kraft is who you would hire for this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you've talked to Rich, right?
Yes, I talked to him this morning.
Okay. Just making sure.
I was in my car doing the consecration of St. Joseph, and he walked up, and I was a little scared. Like, what's this dude coming? Is this a homeless guy? What's going on? But it was Rich.
Dude, I had one. After dropping Karen off this morning.
Here?
No. Well, right up the street. Yeah.
Yeah, it's downtown is getting
Mid-City.
Yeah.
Kelly
Yeah.
So Eric and I are going to disagree on this. You can't have everybody off the street just walk into a press conference, or get rid of the damn press conference.
I think as someone who,
and that's going to be the unfortunate repercussion of this.
I think as someone who's attended press conferences before, I think you are ideally situated to have that opinion, because I mean, you've actually seen what happens in those things. Mm-hmm. We normally see them from the standpoint of the podium and reporting, but like, let's say a sovereign citizen says, "Hey, I got my own government."
Really, just use that term.
Yeah, I have my own government. I have my own news broadcasting media, so I'm a sovereign citizen press person.
The Advocate does not have an FCC license, which brings up a separate question about print journalism, to be sure.
But we would agree that this is clearly press.
Absolutely.
So if I started my own newspaper,
Yes.
Like in the same way that we're talking about just starting a video blog or whatever. If I just started my own journal,
Yeah.
and we've got some print off the hook print places. I mean, I'm not talking Tiger Rag, but like that's right. I used the phrase sovereign citizen.
So the
Good morning, Dara.
LAB has a third. I haven't gotten to the third part. They have a radio membership, a TV membership, and an associate membership.
I would be an associate, right?
I think anybody online would be an associate.
I need an FCC license. Can I get an FCC license?
You actually can. It's hella expensive.
Okay, so it's not worth it.
And if you say a dirty word, you can get fined $10,000.
Right now, if I say a dirty word, you get fined.
Yeah.
They don't regulate me.
Flynn gets fined.
Oh, Flynn's good. Hey, Flynn,
No.
can I borrow 10?
No. Keith says, "Is Central City News considered the press?" So we're about to walk down that road.
It's St. George City. If St. George makes the newspaper.
Focusing on Kieran too much.
Same, because there's the bigger question is beyond her.
Well, I think in this instance you have to kind of focus with her because of the nature of the relationship, and then additionally, you may disagree, and additionally, it's not some bozo the clown coming off the street who has never been a member of the news or press. She has been a member of the press.
Now you're opening up the possibility for discrimination based off of whether or not you're good at your job.
Well, or that you've done the job.
Who gives a shit? You can't deny anybody, right? We're not on the air. We're on.
Okay.
We're on
It's
Facebook.
tiger droppings. Considered media. Press, neither. Media, yes. I don't know about press, but I
If you're getting your natural
That's you got issues.
Good morning, Tim. How are you, sir?
652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt rolling right along. We got 7.5 minutes left in this, Franz, and I don't think we're going to get to all of it by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so many good questions coming in on the Facebook live stream. Because how do you delineate when you're talking about broadcasting and having an FCC license? That's one thing. When you move over to print journalism, all kinds of other questions going on. Now, there's another part from before that I didn't get to when I was breaking down the television membership, and that is the LAB has an associate membership. Okay, that would be kind of a catch-all, if you will.
That would be a her.
Right.
I mean, that would be Kira.
Right. So I'm not going to go through all the qualifications it takes to get an associate membership just because of constraints of time, but there would be an opportunity for a blogger, for a YouTube content creator, for a podcaster to file for a credential.
So would she get a credential? Would she get the same? Brian showed me a credential yesterday. It's kind of sexy. I think
picture.
I mean,
It's a good picture.
yeah,
It's last year's.
It is like the Wayne's World backstage pass, press pass, right?
Yeah.
So that's the credential we're talking about. And you would hang that on your coat, your jacket, your collar shirt, whatever.
Yeah.
And that from what the BRPD is saying, that is the key to get into the kingdom, right?
That's what the lawsuit says.
Right.
The suit says city leaders insist she must get credentialed through the Louisiana Association
So
of
there is
Broadcasters.
a component of this. If she can become an affiliate and get the pass and get in, part of this becomes okay, shut up and do it. Like, stop being whiny.
now,
but from
exactly.
a legal standpoint, I at least see what she's saying, right?
So the part of this we haven't gotten to yet is that, and by the way, Dara says anyone should be granted access to public records. No one's disputing that. That
Yes.
part of this should be a slam dunk.
Unless
that part of this should be the easiest thing
it's
ever.
a public record that is excluded, like a pending criminal case. You can't get those public records until the case is over.
Right.
Unless it's excluded, yes, everybody.
Right.
Press, non-press, Alondra, me, you, everybody gets public records.
Yeah. But the press conference into this is a different scenario because, and we talked about this during the break, no one's required to hold a press conference.
But once it becomes a public meeting by a government entity, does that change things?
Right.
So
Does it?
that's, I think that's going to be I think that a court, a higher court, like the First Circuit's not going to make this decision. It's going to be a Supreme Court. Louisiana or
Yeah.
United States is going to make this ultimately, which is what this is going to be.
And by
postured
the
for.
way, again, forget about Kieran here for a minute. Somebody needs to. We need clear lines of definitions here of what is and is not, because
it all depends on what you mean by the word is.
the chief of police the head coach of LSU, the mayor of Baton Rouge, the governor of Louisiana, none of these people are required to give press conferences.
Do you realize that at some point the press conferences are going to become streaming? Like the news entity is going
Aren't
to
they
just
already?
stream. No,
Yeah.
but it's just going to stream
Right.
the press conference.
Yeah.
The only reason to have a press conference in a venue is so that the camera can be set up, and if they're going to answer questions, they can answer some
Well,
questions.
it's the answering questions part that is the crux of all this. You can get the video from anywhere. You can get the video from anywhere. It's having the access to be able to ask the question that you want.
This entity has not answered her questions in the past. Like, I think she's like not acknowledged. I'm not asserting that as a fact, but I think that's part of the.
There's a whole lot more to that story.
Yeah,
we don't have enough time to unpack it.
Yeah.
But, and again, I don't want this to all be about her because the question she's asking is bigger than her.
So the problem is, though, is she's the test case. Until someone else that doesn't have her Samsonite luggage or baggage, depending on how you look at things, until someone else comes forward, she's the test case. So you, like a golfer, you play her where she lies. So the relationship is part of the conversation because she gets to argue it has nothing to do with my credentials. It has to do with you're messing with me.
Right.
That is why I keep bringing it back to her. I agree with you guys. It really shouldn't have anything to do with her, but it is going to have something to do with her.
So the next time the Baton Rouge Police Department holds a press conference, which, by the way, completely separate issue here, where they hold their press conferences, you have to get cleared just to get behind that front door of the lobby.
Do you think Murphy Paul, here's the question. Do you think Murphy Paul, if I showed up and said, I would like to attend your press conference, he knows who I am.
Yeah.
He knows what I do.
Yeah.
Would he let me in or would he not let me out?
Well, first of all, I don't think it would be Chief Paul that would answer that. It would be McNeely.
Would McNeely let me in or would he not?
I don't know.
I think you're hesitant.
His follow up would be, what is the, because you're talking about yourself with a dual role. You're a criminal defense attorney and you give legal commentary.
I sometimes advocate.
If you said, Gino, I want to get in there because I'm going to be talking about this case on the air,
I think he lets me in.
So
I sometimes.
Are you going to ask questions?
By the way, I sometimes advocate for victims in the criminal justice system. I get hired by victims. So would it be plausible that I would go on behalf of a family that I represent to a murder press conference?
To ask questions in the press conference?
Well, to be present. To be the.
Okay,
the press doesn't.
So
the
there's a
press
separate
doesn't-
one.
The press doesn't have to always ask questions, though, right?
No, I rarely ask questions in press conferences because 9 times out of 10, somebody else is already asking whatever was on my mind. I'll only ask if, like, a bunch of questions are asked and I think they're going down a rabbit hole.
CNN will ask the same question Fox News will ask.
Yeah.
So that they get the soundbite. That's the only reason.
I have no interest in that. It's ego.
Yeah.
That's ego. I don't need that. And there would be a follow-up question, I think. Are you going to watch or are you going to interrogate or are you going to antagonize? I think that's legit as well, right?
I think where this may hinge, and I know we're short. I'll stick around for a couple minutes after.
Yeah, we'll do this while we're in the CBS.
I believe in part her issue is I think I would get in.
Yeah.
And I think she doesn't get in.
The scenario you would.
Yeah. Not that I'm gonna go now and just say, hey Gino, what's up?
Well, I tell you what, the way to find out, everybody just start flooding press conferences.
Which goes back to your point, is the inherent other side of this issue. Problem with this issue is, well, Gino, I have a vlog. Right. I occasionally do a legal radio show. What I'm press. I report on legal topics. Why can't I get in?
Right. I have 21 Instagram followers. Like, where's the line of delineation there? Where do you?
I got more than 21. I know you were using that. I
was using that to be extreme.
I mean, you've got more Twitter. You got more Twitter than.
Do I?
My Twitter numbers are bad. I'm no Gary Chambers.
That's
would Gary Chambers
the Rouge Collection
would be pressed because he has a publication. He has whether we like it or not, whether you like it or not. He has a print publication, does he not? That is also.
He's attorney Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served on the air every week at this time. Stick around on Facebook Live. We got a couple more minutes worth.
I think to some degree he should advocate for her.
Gary until the last 50 seconds of the damn hour.
To their credit, Byron, shout out to Byron. Byron brought up the point. If you're Gary Chambers, do you want her as a civil rights advocate? Granted, she is not his civil rights group, press. Do you want her to be able to get in? You want transparency. You want BRPD to be transparent. You want them to be held accountable. Does she help or hurt that process?
Metro Councilman Brandon Knoll posts on, and he's not speaking as a Metro Councilman here, this is his own personal Facebook, all government press conferences should be open to the public with limitation only by capacity.
Okay. That's a fair, reasonable limit.
It is. But so Brandon, as a Metro Councilman, is more familiar with this from the standpoint of crafting legislation or crafting what is going to become law or ordinance or whatever in Baton Rouge. They have public hearings all the time where, as a member of the public, you're crafting what's going on. This is separate from that. I don't want to get these two muddled. Brandon might not be talking about this. I might be going down a rabbit hole. But I don't want to get these two muddled and say a briefing on what has already happened is different than crafting legislation on what will happen.
But don't we also do the press conferences based on the topic? That sometimes dictates the venue. Like, we might do it in a room a certain size if it's one thing, but if it's a out in Sterling kind of
BRPD has a room with a podium where they do it, and it's kind of a standing room only situation. It doubles as a boardroom.
Is that in the government? Where is that room?
Women's Hospital. Or
Chris Nakamoto was willing to get arrested for his rights party. Remember? Chris Nakamoto got arrested. It was on, they recorded it on the video.
I do. Nakamoto is an employee of WBRZ who has an FCC license. Yeah. So that would be. But
Chris's issue was Chris got booted out of a clerk of court building space, and he's the press.
Well,
and he's reporting.
People are saying Kieran. The argument is they're not letting Kieran in because she writes like negative articles. It's an investigative reporter.
That's her take.
Yeah.
And that's the lawsuit's take. And like Galen says it on Facebook. Hey, Galen, I hate this. Galen says, look, we all know why she's being excluded. No, we don't. We make assumptions. We think we know. But somebody else has to push this button as well so we can get a side-by-side comparison to get further explanation out of it.
I will say this, guys. I've loved having this conversation this morning.
Yeah.
I think we could have more of this conversation because it does kind of bring in Haggai a little bit, by the way, and technology, because I'm thinking, so there's stuff out there, like, would we say that TikTok is a broadcasting platform?
I can get Kieran's content on TikTok.
You can, right?
Yeah.
But just because someone doesn't view TikTok as a viable broadcasting platform, it's 2022.
I don't read a printed paper.
Why would you?
No, because it's right here on my computer.
Rouge Collection, and going back to Gary, and look, I bring it back to Gary because Gary has also been removed from council meetings before, or a council meeting before.
Robin Roberts eating Zaps on Good Morning America.
All right, on that note, I'm out. I'll see you guys.
Hey, what do you want to do with this? There's content to be had here.
I think you need to decide if you want to have another conversation on this, and we can do it Friday. We can do it next week. I mean, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. I think what you would need to do is I think the other conversation is, and I don't know this, and I'm saying this on air or on stream, is there a value to a discussion between both sides of, hey, chief, and asking him questions or asking his legal rep, say, look, all things being what they are, what about this? What about this? What about this? Would they submit themselves? Now they're part of a lawsuit now, so they may not be willing to do that. But
they can't comment on the lawsuit, but they can comment on their standards.
I would get somebody from would LAB come on your show?
I'll ask Polly after the show.
I think a lobbyist would, or an association, and her position, I don't know anything about, I'm not a member. I don't know anything about them. But if I were them, I'd say this is the specific reason why you should join our association. Because we fight for people like this, like Alondra and her right to party. Anyways, I'm out.
Later, bro. Thank you.
Good topic.
Thank you.